Hey everyone, welcome back. It's Louisa Munson from Feel Good Astrology. Now, I've got a feel good conversation today called How Reiki Saved My Life. And my guest today is somebody that I was introduced to via a mutual friend, Tanya Castillo, who you may have seen. I've done quite a few shows with in the past. So, my guest today is Beverley Holt, and she is really quite a dynamo. You know, she has been involved in so many things. And really followed an integral path, a path of absolute integrity to who she is, as you'll soon find out. So anyway, let's bring her on and find out more about what makes Beverley tick. So it's my absolute pleasure and delight to bring on Beverley Maidment to the show. Beverley, welcome to the show. It's lovely to have you here.
Thank you, Louisa. It's such a pleasure and delight to be with you as always.
Oh, thank you. It was lovely meeting you properly for the first time because we've been in correspondence for a couple of months. So it's a real joy. And I can see it's a rather cloudy day there. So you're in Sydney. I'm in Portugal at the moment. Is it Sydney where you are?
Yeah. That's the Harbour Bridge there in the background. And we recently they had terrible floods, but fortunately I was able in the suburb where we're staying in Woolwich. We missed them. We are on the river, so it's waterfront views, and and in the summer, like I escaped France to come for the sunshine, and all we've seen is rain and thunderstorms, and it's just been incredible. So that's what I was saying when I was chatting earlier. I've just started painting a series of clouds like the beautiful ones behind you.
Yeah, they're very cheery. It's funny in Portugal. When I first arrived, it took about a month before we actually saw any clouds. We came over in a really hot summer, and the joy when I saw the first cloud, it was very much like that one right behind me, a really big fluffy cloud. I hadn't seen those for a really long time. But anyway, we're not here to talk about clouds and the lovely places that we live in. We're here to talk about I really want to learn more about you as a person. I understand, from all of the amazing things that you do, that you have such a rich and deep level of spirituality and a really interesting journey. And it sounds like it's an ongoing journey because you move around quite a bit as well. So tell me, where did it all start?
When I first became aware of it, I was very young. My mother was clairvoyant, clair everything, and she used to talk to cats and goodness know what and tell me the messages. And if someone was ill, or because we come from a large family, so if uncles or cousins were dying, she'd say, oh, something bad's going to happen. I don't think they're going to be in this life for long. And then we'd get a call to say Uncle so-and-so's passed. And then it started happening to me, and she told me, that I had the same gift, and she told me, shh, don't tell anyone, because they think you're crazy. Because she never used to tell anyone, because people used to call her a witch or that crazy woman, and mainly my father used to call her that. So she learned to keep quiet. And I think, in my early teenagers, someone bought me some tarot cards, and I started doing them for friends, and everything came true. I didn't even learn them. I didn't study them or anything. I just started doing them. And then I got a message to say, stop doing them. People need to stand in their own power and have their own life experience. It's not a quick fix. So I used to hear these voices and just thought everybody hears them. And it wasn't until I started psych nursing that I was like, oh my God, there's people here talking to the angels, talking to God, and they're locked up, they're crazy. So I spoke to an Indian psychiatrist, and asked him to interview my mum and I to make sure we were sane or not. And he just laughed. He said, Yeah. Honestly, I was so concerned at the time. And it was probably part of my dysfunctional belief systems needing to be perfect and needing to know.
Mm.
So I'd asked the psychiatrist to, an Indian Dr. Chowdhury, who was really lovely. And he met up with us both. And he said, no, he said, in my country, a lot of people work with energy and with the chakras and so forth. But he said, I don't firmly believe in it. I don't follow it, but all my friends are very well known and they believe in it. So he said, I would just say, he said, I grew up with it. You know, the family are all like that, talking about energy and stuff. But he said, I just think you and your mom are very gifted and keep doing what you're doing. So that was it. That was my first knowing of it. And then, you know, being a nurse, from a child, I knew I was always here to be of service and always helping people. Even like my mother and aunties from a young age would come to me for counseling and advice, and the neighbors. And I think I had a sticker on my forehead saying, tell me your problems. And that's how my journey began, and it gradually went into nursing, and then from there, through life experiences, well, a friend of mine who's a nurse consultant nagged me for years, Jackie, to do a Reiki course, and I was like, no, it's taboo, because both my paternal grandparents were they were ministers in churches,
Right.
and coming from a medical background with lots of doctors and nurses, I thought everything had to be simply this or that.
Yeah.
And my mother, when I started doing the Ouija board with some friends, she knew straight away, and she said, no, don't mix with the occult. That's too dangerous. And I think something frightened me, and I put everything on a hold for a while. So, you know, I just got a bit nervous about everything and closed everything down. So, and it's about allowing, well, you know what that's like because you channel as well. So, you know, it's about having the trust and trusting your
Yeah.
intuition.
It's interesting. There are some parallel themes there. Only I didn't have someone guiding me really. You know, I didn't have like a mum, or I mean, obviously I have a mum, but I didn't have a psychic mother, I guess, until I was about 15. But I understand. You know, when you said like to sort of veer away from the occult, I absolutely avoided the Ouija board. I've never done it, never been interested. I've always kind of steered clear of it. But also the idea that, you know, we have to live our life as well. There was a moment where I was going into my clairaudiency, that kind of voice. Um, and then there was this very clear message that it was time for me to live and not practice that for a while and to gain experience. And it sounds like you had a similar thing. Was there a point when that changed and you came back into your purpose, you know, like in those years where you were kind of busy building a life and doing stuff? What was it that brought you back?
Yeah, what brought me back was my friend Jackie, that was the nurse consultant and nagged me for years to do the Reiki.
Mm.
I'd actually was in a very dysfunctional relationship with a guy who was very jealous and possessive, and it ended up when I said I was leaving because I hadn't long moved in with him,
Yeah.
I said I'll be back later. I got to the lift, and before I knew it, he was behind me, and he was strangling me. It
Oh my
was like
goodness.
he told me to leave, but when I left, you know, it was like, no, he couldn't deal with it. So he started strangling me, and he was massive, and I couldn't push him away. I was like so limp. It was like instant limpness. And I was
Gosh.
like, started praying and please, God, you know, if you're there, please help me, please help me, please help me. And, you know, finally, he must have seen the begging and pleading. Something happened within him, and he just let me go, and I slumped to the floor. And luckily, I was only raised a couple of inches. So, you know, it wasn't so bad, and got away. And a policeman friend who was a neighbor, in my apartment block in Rose Bay where I was living. I was having it renovated while I was living with Trevor, and he said, you need to report him. But because I'd worked at the prison as a registered nurse, it was like, oh, I know that won't make any difference, because I've seen people, still stalking people and doing bad things to people from a distance. Yeah. And then Jackie said to me, right, that's it, because I developed a sty on my eye and I couldn't see out. He started stalking me at the apartment. I moved with friends. He found me there. He was at work ringing every 2 minutes, and he used to ring, nearly every hour, and the receptionist was going bonkers before this all happened. And she's going, he's wasting all our time, can you stop him from ringing? And it was when mobile phones first came out. So I was the last one because I worked in a medical center, and I'd tell my friends when I was meeting them. So I was the last one to get them, and he persuaded me to have one. He said, oh, it's my work, don't worry, take the phone and call as many people as you like. It doesn't cost me a thing. Call all your clients and give them your number, call all your friends. And when I told him I was leaving, because loads of things had happened and I had ignored them, he'd called all my clients and friends, male and female, and accused them of having an affair with me. So it was like, yeah. And it was like, where do I have time to have an affair? You drop me off at work, you pick me up, you're stalking me outside work. And, he was following me if I went to a yoga class or anything. Anyway, so I eventually, against my reluctance, had a Reiki treatment. And then I flew from Australia to Wales to get away from him, because it was just too bad, because I'm Welsh and my family are there. And I went for a walk. A week later, someone came to visit and said, oh, where did you have the operation? And I was like, what operation? And then for your sty. And I looked in the mirror and it was like, oh my God, my sty's gone. And I didn't even know I could open my eyes. And we went for a walk, and we seen in a natural therapy shop a sign for Reiki. And I went inside, and they said to me, the gentleman, oh yeah, my teacher, she's in Australia at the moment. She's also a psychologist, and she's gone out there to teach Reiki. And I thought, wow. He said, but I'm a Reiki master. She trained me. And he was living 2 minutes walk from my sister where I was staying. So I booked an appointment, and because my first experience of Reiki, I hated it. I didn't want to be there. I thought the guy he placed his hands above me. I thought he was going to fall and bash his head on me. And my mind was running riots. And so I had this Reiki, and I just felt really calm. But that night was the first night I'd slept for about 3 or 4 months. And I woke up, and I think it's what I now know as an awakening, because I could see the love and the light and the beauty and everything. Like everything looked like 3D colors. They were so bright. And I found in my heart to forgive my ex-partner, because I could see that he was a divine being. And, he was just out of alignment, and he was here to help me on my lesson as well, to stand in my power and to observe the signs and do something about them, not ignore them, till they get out of order, because that's what happened, And I couldn't wait to go back to Australia then to do my Reiki training. And Reiki has now been part of my daily life. I find it like some people do it and then go on to do loads of other things, which I've also done as well. But Reiki has saved my life on many occasions. And I find when you ask me, when I was channeling and seeing things, I ask for my messages to come when I'm giving the Reiki. I know how to control what I'm seeing and hearing. All my senses are affected. and I ask, tell me if it's okay to tell this client the message or this person. And I'm so in tune. When the client walks in the room, I know absolutely everything about them before I even put, they even have a session on the table. So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's an amazing gift. Do you still see things in the 3D color, like see the love connections?
Yeah, sometimes, it's funny because I've got a pair of glasses that are scratched, and I call them my psychic glasses, because whenever I wear them, I'm like, wow, look at the sky, look at the trees, look at everything. And a few people, I really thought it was my glasses, but it's got nothing to do with the scratch, because a few of my friends have heard me and they've tried them on, and they're like, oh, I can't see it. No, it's just normal. But yeah. So, but I do see them when I focus and look at the auras, like I'm blessed looking out at the sea, but in the garden, there's beautiful trees. And when I look at the trees and just put my whole focus there and ask to connect with the trees and teach me and, feel me, unite with me. And the colors are just truly incredible.
Yes, I can collaborate with that. Like I have that ability to see the beauty and the love and the auras around things, but I've not been able to kind of call it back at will, I don't think. But it was something that happened a lot around my late teens, and then periodically I have moments where all of a sudden, boom, there it is, and then it's like, where did it go? What a lovely that's fantastic. Oh, wow. So you're a psychiatric nurse with a kind of partner that needed help. Isn't it
Yeah.
funny how we match up together, the healer and the person that's suffering? And you managed to forgive him for his ways, which should not be diminished at all.
Oh, no.
And it put you firmly on your path. I love that you found your path, because it sounds like you're doing a lot of good.
Yeah.
So tell me about some of the things you've studied, because I believe you've studied with William Whitecloud.
Yeah.
He's somebody my husband absolutely adores, and I've checked him out a few times. But tell me more about, because you studied, what is it, super consciousness? What's super consciousness?
Yeah. So, super consciousness, I believe we're all born with. It's our inner genius. It's our pure essence, our rawness, our soul, our spirit, whatever you want to call it, because I know there's so many diverse people in the world. And I say to people, it's like putting a lampshade on, or a blanket over the lamp. So this light is always shining within us. And through our, as William would describe it, and through various brain entrainment courses with amazing people like the Barefoot Doctor, Stephen Russell, and I did so much work with him. He was amazing. And Rod Briggs and many others before William. Um, it's all about the light. So as William would describe it, from the age of 0 till 2, it's about when we're birthed, and this is when we should be loved by our mother, and most of us are breastfed by our mother, and she shows us how the love and to feel the love from 0 till 2. So obviously, if our mother's not around and we're not breastfed or, farmed out to different people, there's so many working mothers now, and, fathers might be bottle feeding them, the stay-at-home dads, which there's nothing wrong with either. But, some mothers are just not there. And, or for medical reasons, I was also a general nurse, and I know a lot of women suffer postpartum depression and things like this as well. And some people have traumatic experience during the birthing. You know, like my mother, one time when she had the twins, she lost loads of blood, and at that time she was in hospital on and off for nearly a year. You know, so sometimes your mama's not there for whatever reason. And from 2 till 4, as the Mayans would say, they take their children to the top of the mountains, the man, the father, to show them how to bring this love in the world. So if your father's not around and he doesn't teach you and show you things, you know, you have the feelings then of not being good enough, not being perfect, not being seen, not being validated. And we make up all these belief systems, and they're all lies. They're absolutely all lies. But the saddest part about it is that we spend our lives, you know, trying to rectify these lives. We live in the lives, trying to correct them, but they're still lies, and we're not living out. We're not living, and they can be exhausting. You know, like for example, I had the need to be perfect, and I could come top of the class, which I did often, because I know from our conversation, you know, I would go to school and I would daydream because I'd find it all too boring, and the spiritual world was far more exciting. And the teachers would say on all my reports, don't know how she come top the class, all she does is daydream, you know. And like you, I was gifted to go to a grammar school, and the same there, you know. And I didn't feel right in the schools. It didn't feel that's where I needed to be. And like you, I had the opportunity to go to university, but I self-sabotage because my parents hadn't gone, and I didn't want to put them through financial stress and loads of other things. And it's about fear of being a failure. Oh, what if I'm not good enough? What if they find out, you know, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, so even all my nursing, I ended up teaching before I actually, because my exams, my mother died one weekend of my exams, and I didn't sit them that weekend when I was 23. So I had 6 months, and I wanted to be in the theatre so I didn't have to talk to people, but they were short-staffed in teaching, and eventually I ended up teaching students before I'd even qualified. So through my life, I've become a natural teacher as well. Everything, I think, with William, he teaches you how to find that magic. So I normally, before William's work, I describe it as the shade over the lamp. And when we start, like an onion, we peel one layer, then the other layer, and the other layer, then more crap surfaces up, and then we peel more layers. And this is like, you know, we can peel off the layers around the lampshade. And what William describes it as is we're given a second chance of living. We can find our true authentic self, and we do a lot of work with our fundamental belief systems. So we have 12 major ones, like the ones I just said, and the other common ones are I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, I'm not capable, I don't have the capacity, and things like that. So part of his training is the superconscious, and this is our genius, our superpower. So we do like magical readings and a fun, you know, we do fun exercises to loosen people up where we tell a story and we're led on. And he does that for 2 weeks, and he's an amazing man. I've interviewed him on my podcast show because, you know, I have a podcast show for health and well-being. And he's just incredible. His mission since COVID lockdown is to educate 1 million people for free with his trainings.
Wow, really?
Yeah. And so the first 2 weeks are about your super consciousness. And then the second 3 weeks are about creating your destiny, where you start to learn all about your belief systems and go in a lot deeper so that you can become consciously aware. So of, you know, when you're slipping back into your negative beliefs and, you know, feelings of unworthiness and things like that. And his trainings are very structured. They're very simple. This is why I love them. Each week is like builds on to the next week and builds on to the next week. And it's a set structure that you can do. So I was just so blown away with his teachings. And then I went on and did his next advanced Secrets of Natural Success. And then I've done his Alchemy for Success. And now I'm teaching, well, not teaching, I'm a Zoom leader to facilitate his trainings. And I just find that's a really good way for me to embody stuff. Because I don't know about you, but a lot of people over the years, they've said to me, oh, Beverley, you are so lucky. You always land on your feet. Oh, I can't believe, you know, you're the queen of manifesting everything you say, or, you know, it happens. And sometimes the synchronicities come like this, you know, and it's always been like a party joke. Oh, you know, angels of parking, please find me a parking right outside. And we always get it. And things like that. And just even in my own life, I lived in Australia for 20 years, met my partner, and we eventually went back to Europe for 15 years. And before we went, because I used to be a real dinosaur when it comes to computers and technology, and I always had a secretary helping me, but now I'm changing my mind shift and talking to my superconscious, because now I'm a genius at it. I had, you know, just on Microsoft, you open up the windows, and I had a picture of a catamaran sailing yacht on my thing. And then before we knew it, Brian and I, my partner Brian, he's a professional yachty, he's raced yachts around the world and also a marine engineer. We got offered a job, and it would have been with Sir Richard Branson in France, to go and sail on his boat and work on his boat. And we didn't take that job because Brian went over, to cut long story short, and it was badly made. And Richard had just gone out for a sailing holiday, fell in love and bought it, but he didn't know anything about it. And it's what we would call in the sailing industry a red herring, so it needed lots of work. But the seed was planted, and we did go over, and our first job was on a sailing catamaran going from Mallorca. We went to the Red Sea, and we just had the most amazing time. And during that time, when we did a delivery, we went on a friend's motor yacht, and we took a picture of it. Our next job was on a motor yacht, and then we took a picture of an amazing sailing yacht, and then like 140-foot sailing yacht with a one-off design. All these boats were one-off designs, so it was like completely brand new. And we did a trip on that as well. So we were even going, I want to work in this country, this is how much money we want, and so forth. And it was all falling into place. So what I want to say to the listeners is, you know, just believe in planting seeds, because nature teaches us so much. Like we plant a seed, you know, that acorn becomes the mighty, magnificent oak tree. And we have that exact same blueprint within us, as you well know, because I know, like myself, you're a lover of nature. And William grew up in South Africa in nature. And as a child, he used to jump out, like 4 and 5, jump out to the window and play before all the servants got up. In that era when he was growing up, he had servants and the family. And he would play with the wild animals. You know, they would all come up, and he would feel all their cold noses next to him, you know. So, you know, they obviously, the animals are so amazing. They know a child is a child, and they're not there to harm. And, you know, and then he would sneak back in. Anyway, his belief system, his father grew up with his father, so William's grandfather, telling him he was an idiot, he was an imbecile, he was nothing. And then when William was born, his own father did exactly the same to him. So he'd spent most of his life thinking he was an idiot. And his father even said to him, look, he was dyslexic, he had learning disabilities and never learned to read or write. And in school, left school early. And his father said, you better go to Europe because you can't get a job here, you know, because at that time with the class system, it'd be like, you know, the servants, the dark-skinned people would be doing those jobs. You better go and be a garbage collector in London, you know, because that's all you're going to be capable of. So he spent his life thinking he wasn't good enough, he was stupid, he was an idiot. And even the teachers at school used to put him down and treat him as an imbecile. And eventually he came to Australia, and he lived in Balmain for a while, and then in Byron Bay. And, you know, he eventually got really sick. He was a drug addict, alcoholic, and then he got really sick, which on one level was a blessing. But for 10 years, he lost loads of weight. His skin was falling off him. He said he must have looked like a leper and something disgusting. And the girlfriend at the time got a priest, not that he's religious, to have his last rites read. And something told him to crawl outside and have his last few breaths out there. And when he was out there, someone came and sat next to him, a young kid. And William didn't want to speak to anyone, but this kid was going, oh, tell me what's wrong with you. I really want to know. So eventually he told me, and he said, I know what's wrong with you. You need to go to the pub, have red meat. He was very specific, 2 glasses of white wine and 2 cigarettes. And in those days, you could smoke in the cafes. And every morning, have 2 cups of coffee. And then William thought, oh, stuff it. He seems to know what he's talking about. And he'd been to all the top doctors, and he was currently seeing a Chinese medicine doctor because he'd given up on the traditional system and was filling himself up with Chinese herbs and disgusting boiled cabbage. So he went to this pub, he did what he told him, and he instantly felt better. And he did this for 3 or 4 days, and he was like, wow. And then he was like, wow, if I can do this, what else can I do? And that propelled him on his self-love, self-healing journey. And one day he just got this message to write a book, and he put the pen in his hand, and that was pure channeled, and that was the magician's way. And he's been teaching that work for the last nearly 30 years. You know, it's incredible, an incredible story. And I feel so honored and blessed to know him. And I feel really honored to learn the science behind what I'm doing naturally. So now I can teach people, oh, yeah, you can do X, Y, and Z. You know, this is what has been explained to me and researched and blah, blah, blah. So, yeah.
Oh, it's fantastic. I love how you describe that. I mean, Carl, my husband, he was once given the advice that he needed, and this is obviously advice that was given in the early 80s when it was still okay to, you know, to talk about women in a slightly derogatory way. But he was when I say it, you'll recognize it from the time, but he was moping, he was depressed, he was sick. And this elder came up to him and said, you need to go out and get a bacon sandwich and a mucky blonde. You know, like the idea behind it is you need to get some joy in your life. You know, you need to like connect to what you would like, and not with being kind of strict and puritanical, and because that cuts off life, doesn't it, when you're managing it?
Oh, absolutely.
You know, like, panic, and the seeds blow where they need to go. I was speaking to some herbalists from these wonderful herbalists from Hawaii recently, not on my show. I'm hoping to get them on really soon, but they described that the herb arrives before you even know you're ill, but the right herb is always growing in your neighborhood that can heal you. And I was like, wow, that's awesome. But, you know, like nature really does know. And I love what you're talking about. And isn't it funny, or maybe not, you know, because of synchronicity, that both of our backgrounds have got white clouds in?
Yes. And I know when I interviewed you, we talked about clouds, because I I love, as a child, my favorite thing was to lie in the grass and just, obviously, I was in Wales and you were in
Kent.
UK, London, Kent. You
Yeah.
know, the weather I'm getting in Australia now is just like my upbringing in Wales. In the summer, it rained, and, just looking at the sky and looking at the beautiful clouds. And as you can see, I've got lovely grey clouds at the moment. And just asking questions that my sisters and I used to go, oh, can you see the man in the moon? And, I'm sure the moon's trying to duck out already. And can you see any animals? Are there any people? And when I was on my own, I used to go, I know there's someone up there, what are you trying to tell me? And then I would ask the big questions like, why am I here? Why have I come here? Why did you bring me here? And why don't you come down and play with me?
Yeah.
And I don't know if you as well, I had an imaginary friend. And I know it's very common up until the age of 4 or 5 to have an imaginary friend, but it's really a spirit friend, because as babies, we can see spirits so easily. We can't separate between humans and spirits. And I had an imaginary friend. So my mother brought me a doll and said, put your friend inside the doll, and then she can join us for tea and everything, But
That's a good idea. She's so wise, your mum. What a
yeah,
fantastic thing to say, rather than like a lot of mums would just shut you down with that. Oh, shh, don't say that because that's going to upset somebody. But by putting it in a
yeah,
doll, it made it completely acceptable, didn't it? You could say it anywhere. Wow,
yeah,
she's so
exactly.
wise. Wow, that's a
Yeah.
top. There's so much. I love what you're sharing. There's just like so many good bits. I don't know where to go back to. So actually, I'm going to move forwards because I know you've been invited to speak at lots of large scale women's events.
Yeah.
And so I'd like to know more about how you found your voice as a professional speaker, because I think that's rather wonderful. Tell me a bit more about
Yeah.
that, please.
Yeah, I think, well, I was one of 8. 2 had actually died before I was born.
Uh,
And I was the last but one. So you're always fighting to be heard, you know. So it was a very noisy upbringing, very loud, but very happy. Like my mother showered us with love, absolutely showered us with love. And she wanted us to have what she didn't have, so she was always giving, giving, giving. And, my grandmother was the same. And I think it's a good virtue to have, always put other people before you and give of yourself. And I used to love telling stories, and I would get everybody, and people would sit around me and just listen, even from a young child. And then, I would say, close your eyes, which I now know is like a form of meditation. Close
yeah,
your eyes. And then I would tell them what I was seeing, and take them on this magical journey. And in my nursing profession, I naturally became a teacher. So I became teaching. I did aromatherapy. Something similar happened, and one of the teachers got sick, and all the students were going, oh, will you explain it to me? Because they don't explain it. And when they ask you a question, you explain it so well. So I started teaching aromatherapy. And then when I got to France, I realized, when I was living there, that a lot of people were working illegally because they didn't know how to get in the system and so forth. So I started holistic network profession, and I invited tax accountants and lawyers and business people as speakers. And I would always be the MC before and do like a warm-up session. And then
yeah,
people would ask me, how do you network?
mm,
So I started teaching them like basic skills, and then it became like a monthly thing. So every
mm,
month I would do a session on networking. And then before I knew it, people were asking me, to speak at their events. So we had the young professionals in yachting. They asked me to speak about networking there. And the list went on.
Mhm.
It was just went viral. People kept asking me to speak about networking, and that's how it came about.
So it's not just women's events then, it's all events. I know that you've spoken recently at a couple of women's events. So it's just
Yeah.
you found a voice to talk about whatever is needed and to
Yeah.
trust.
Well, I, yeah, like you, I follow my intuition and I'm guided. And I've always loved, the balance of men and women and mixed audiences. But for some reason, I'm always getting shoved to speak to women and run women's groups and look after women. So when I first came to Australia, I had, after a while, I worked in various healing centers and hairdressers and different things, doing my meditations, sports massage, etc. And then I started my own center. And for some reason, I was seeing a lot of battered women because
Mhm.
I also believe, when you're earning good money, it's good to give back.
Yeah.
Whatever I earn, I'm always giving and donating and helping. And if you can't give money, I think it's important to give your time. So when I first started, when I first
Mhm.
started this center, I was really financially overstretched, paid, close to six figures for it, but it was like an impulse, and I had the vision, I held the vision, and I knew having yoga, meditation, and all the rooms filled, and yummy mummy packages, etc. I could
Mhm.
easily cover my mortgage and all the rest of it. And at the time, the banks were giving 100% mortgages, which was really crazy. And so I got this place, overstretched myself, and then with my networking skills, I got known as the networker, and I realized so many people were coming to me. They didn't know if they were ill. For example, if you have a fall, should I see my family doctor? Should I see a physio, an osteopath, a chiropractor, and the list goes on. So I thought, this is mad. And I had an Ayurvedic doctor working with me and a quantum physics doctor, naturopaths and homeopaths. And I myself was working with the Australian rugby team. And I was doing a lot of voluntary work with the New South Wales Waratahs, which was near where we live. And so I got known in the public eye. I started doing monthly education, and I would invite all the local doctors or physios and different people. We put flyers in all our neighbors' boxes. The whole staff, we came together as a team, and we set the intention to educate people about health and who they should see. So each month, a regular doctor or physio would speak, plus either my Ayurvedic doctor or naturopath or something like this. And even massage. There's so many different styles of massage. People don't know what style is
Mm.
going to suit them. So I was
Yeah.
in loads of publications, loads of articles, and I was known as the go-to person for health and well-being because I was promoting all these lovely people and doing talks. And I helped a friend build his holistic business network as well. So it just all fell into place. And I think the most important thing is because I love helping people, and I've gone through loads of traumas in my life, and I think that's why people come to me, because they feel safe with me. When I started work
Yeah.
with the Wallabies, with my nursing, they knew I knew the body well, and even then it was a bit taboo, but we were using aromatherapy oils, and I was making them blends, whether they wanted a good night's sleep or whatever. But with all the athletes and everything, because you just got to go with the flow, as you said, flow and go. So,
Awesome. And so in more recent times then, like you've got your health and wellbeing network that I'd love you to tell me about as well. But
yeah.
I think you're also traveling around in a camper van, is that right? How do
Yeah.
those all fit together?
Yeah. So just quickly, so at those nights, someone asked me, do I help battered women? And then we started doing
Yeah.
the fundraisers every month for the battered women. And it also happened the same when I got to France. I started seeing battered women. So I
Gosh.
don't believe in just giving people money. I believe in empowering them, and the best way we did that was through meditation. And in France and then in Monaco, there were so many troubled women. And in Monaco, they said, will you start up a ladies' luncheon and bring speakers? So that's how that came about. And I was doing wellness speakers. So, because I had the wellness center and the wellness
Yeah.
background. And here, when I arrived, um, a contact in Monaco connected me with a lovely lady here, Alicia Young. She's an Australian journalist and TV anchor, and we became friends. And she's written many books which you would love. One is called A Message from Heaven. One of her friends, a couple, miscarried, and the baby was trying to give a message to their mother, but
Yeah.
the mother, was too distraught. So they went to Alicia, and she learned so much about soul planning. She's seen the soul council, she's seen all her decisions, all his members in the soul, but most importantly, she had all the messages to give to her friends. But she's written a book about that. She's worked with Mother Teresa in Calcutta and done so many incredible things. Anyway, she was speaking at the Empowered Women's event. It was called, a group is called Silver Sirens, Redefining Aging. And she asked me, would I go along and help her with her book stand and be like her support anchor because she was speaking. And then I met Faith Agugu, the amazing founder of this group. And she invited me to speak at her, we became friends, and she invited me to speak on International Women's Day. And then because I'm in Australia, it's been 15 months and I thought I'd only be 3 months. Everybody in Monaco is going, oh, we're missing you, we're missing you. So my co-partner and I decided to do something special for International Women's Day. And we've now grown into a global event, and women globally are coming to our talks, which is absolutely incredible. And we will be soon starting doing them on live on StreamYard, like you do as well, so that people can watch them at any time, and I don't have to worry about getting people to edit them and so forth. Because in Australia, while we've been traveling in our little camper van, we don't often have internet and sometimes no phone connection. So, but while we came to say goodbye to some friends in Sydney, we got stuck in a 16-week lockdown. And then I got a message to go traveling in a camper van, but it was impossible to buy one because everybody wants to do the same. And it's an 18-month wait list for a new one.
No
And
way.
because Australia, like they haven't, it's only recently they opened the doors to tourism. So for 2 years, they haven't had any tourists at all. So it's been very strict here, it's very isolated. And so we ended up buying a refrigerated van. It'd been used like a truck, and the walls were about this thick. So my husband dismantled it because of his engineering background. He had a complete shell, and then he built it almost like a boat, because neither of us had been in a camper van. We didn't know, what it was like. So he built it like a boat with two lockers on either end, and then dining tables in the middle, and then the ends were sofas, and in the night it becomes a mattress. And he's added a shower and toilet and those type of luxuries that one needs to be self-sufficient. And yeah, so we've done a few short trips, but my intuition told me I have to go away and connect with nature. This is where I'm going to truly help so many people, so many women, especially. I'm getting the message of women. And I know when I lie down, I've done loads of meditations over the years. People have asked me if I'm a shaman, and then shamans tell me, "Oh, how long have you been a shaman? Is your family all shamans?" So, but I love lying. Yeah, I love lying on the ground and just letting Mother Earth completely support me, feeling that energy and feeling into it and asking her for her guidance. And for some reason, I'm meant to go to the outback. And recently we've been staying by rivers and lakes and, listening to so many amazing birds and the trees. And, I can feel the aliveness around me. And I think this is what everybody needs at the moment. They need to be happy. They need to laugh, find something to laugh about,
Yeah.
and be in nature. I say to people, leave your phones at home, completely disconnect and just be with nature, just be, breathe and be. So I'm doing a lot of heart connection and breathing through my heart. And, I do things, I think of a person or even the planet and I put them in front of me and then I hug them. And then I do a lot of breathing with them till our hearts beat as one. And then I breathe them and put them into my heart. And I just find this so empowering, And when people do it with me, and copy what I'm doing, a lot of them are in tears, because for some people, they haven't felt divine love,
Mm.
And
And that actually, that kind of goes back to your comment, when you were talking about William, about how between 0 and 2, you need to be loved and held by your mother, because for a baby, your mother is the divine mother, isn't she? That is how it seems. I was at a museum just a couple of days ago, and there were these statues that were like 7 or 8 foot high, maybe even bigger. And I was like looking up at them and I thought, this must be what it is like to be a small child. Of course, we can't remember what it's like to like look up at adults, but they were like gods, these statues. So the holding the divine is an important job, to remind us. Sorry, I feel like I interrupted. Come on.
No, it's fine because we are having a conversation. So it doesn't, I like the way it's all flowing. And it's good when we transgress. And going back to the mother in the womb, when you think about our conception, our subconscious, our superconscious is born and it's birthed in our root chakra when, we're given the physical birth. And when you think of that tiny fetus, growing inside, and it feels happy and safe and it's in the dark, it's got all the warmth and all its needs are met. The mother is loving it, usually. And then if you have a natural birth, all that pushing and coming out of this narrow channel, and you've been relatively secluded in the womb, a buffer for the noise, and then all of a sudden you come through this tiny channel, and depending if there was traumas, if your mother had to be cut, and the stress and the anxiety with the doctors, etc., and midwives, you come out into this big, bright, light, vast room, which is so noisy. And I think, oh my God, but any child to take their first breath, they're very brave. It's like, in that instant, it's like you don't know what's going on because you come out, because we go through that veil of forgetfulness, that we forget that we're a divine being, and, instead of coming, as many people say, we come to earth to learn. I think we come to earth to unlearn, because as soon as we're born and able, we pick up all the issues that we mentioned earlier about our belief systems. And God bless our parents or caretakers. They were wonderful beings and just doing what they thought was amazing for us. And we just make up all these lies, And as you know, as a homeschool mother, and obviously such a beautiful mum, up until the age of 6, our frontal lobe hasn't formed, and it's like a sponge. So we're taking in all this information. And if our parents argue or our caretakers, we blame ourselves. So we blame ourselves. We take on board the worries of the world for no reason. We just bring it on, and then we have the joy or not. It depends if we choose to do the work on ourselves to unpack it. And as William would say, start living your second life, you know. And I've always said to people, you know, as we grow older, it's good to have those experiences, but at some time you have to be consciously aware, you know, because having done work with William and loads of others, I realize the personal development world is broken because every time you go to see someone, they're trying to fix you. But what they're doing is reinforcing your negative belief systems. So we're not connecting to our true authentic self, you know. And as you know, it's so easy to get out of alignment, and it's all about practicing conscious awareness and being aware of what I'm saying, how I respond to people, how I'm acting, you know, to situations and things like that. Because life is about choices, you know, and we can choose to act or we can react, and we can choose to question, you know, it's like thoughts. We could be happy chatting here and someone else pops into this Zoom call and we've been laughing our heads off, and all of a sudden we feel uncomfortable, or if this was a real room, you know. And we don't think it's the same. And commonly in supermarkets, we could be happy and then all of a sudden we feel uptight or we feel teary or whatever. Nobody questions, where did that thought come from? Is that my thought?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I think
Or as an empath picking up somebody else's as you're walking past them in the supermarket.
exactly. I'm an empath as well. And their feelings, oh my God, and the feelings of the world, you know, when we last came to Australia in 2019, we had those horrendous, the worst ever fires. You know, I was heartbroken just thinking, you know, like every country, we have animals that are unique to this country, you know, and just, you know, all the millions of animals that were burned and the lives lost and people's homes destroyed. And now we've had the floods, and, you know, it's tragic. But as you and I both know, we all sign a contract as a soul, and we choose to be born to our parents and the circumstances. And part of our unlearning, I think, is really good to remember that we can rise above it. And the only constant thing is change. You know, change is always going to be. So for me, I like to use my breath as an anchor. And no matter what is going on around me, I can breathe and anchor to my breath and rise above it. And look at things with new eyes.
Wow. I'm guessing that anyone's, you know, I'm guessing there's going to be a few people listening that think, oh, wow, I'd love to work with Beverley directly. If somebody wants to reach out and work with you, what's the best way for them to reach you?
Probably at this stage is beverley@bmbinternational.com, my email. And I'm sure you put it with the notes as well.
It'll be in the show notes, and in post-production, I'm going to put it just underneath your face, which is...
Yeah.
I never know where to use camera. It's always so difficult. Have you got like... I'm going to have to wrap this up because I'm going to have to check on my babies that are sleeping at the moment. Yeah. I've got one that's going to want some milk very shortly. Because just, you know, if it's not aware already, if you're not aware, like Beverley in Sydney and I'm in Portugal, Europe, we started recording this at 7 a.m. my time, so yeah, I've got to get back and do mum stuff. But if you had one tool that you'd like to leave people with, or one recommendation or something to plug, even, you know, if you've got something that would be really useful for people, what would that be?
I would obviously learn Reiki, because I healed my tumor in my throat and my ovaries.
Wow.
And the doctors wanted me to be rushed into hospital and have surgery, chemo, and radio. But instead, I went on a holiday, trusted my intuition, and thought, it's time for me to walk my walk and talk my talk. And I went to New Zealand, went the British Lions tour, connected with 30,000 Welsh people, and sung my heart out, laughed my heart out, wore crystals in my pocket, and received Reiki from my cousin, who's a Reiki master, every day, and some of her friends. And when I came back, I was told it was spontaneous remission. And Reiki is a Japanese word for universal love. And I believe, just taking a breath, you bring that divine love through. And Reiki is hands-on, so it's hands-on, Reiki on. And if you can't do the training, just every day, especially if you're stressed, stop, take a conscious breath. Imagine you're breathing in divine love and fill up your heart and place your hands on your heart and just allow yourself to be and send this love out to whatever is causing you to stress and to the people or the situation. Just practice breathing and sending love out.
Wow, that is an absolute perfect moment for us to draw this to a close, because I think that's a showstopper. Like that's like the final sort of belter of a night. At a concert. That's like the pinnacle of the show. So thank you so much for that. I really, really appreciate your time, Beverley. It's been amazing having you on, and I feel very blessed. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. I feel very blessed and honored to be here. So thank you very much, Louisa. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
You're so welcome.
And you're amazing doing these shows. So keep up your great work. Thank you.
Bless you. You do the same, don't you? Well, I'm pretty sure you'll agree that was a bit of a show-stopping, feel-good conversation. Beverley did not disappoint, did she? I loved how she described the journey, her route to finding Reiki, or actually how Reiki found her. I think with all of these stories, these healing stories, there's obviously, the modality coming towards the person who's seeking it, and it always seems to happen in just the perfect and right way. I find Beverley really inspiring in how she planned her own treatment, and her certainty that she knew it was time to just go her own way, and I love that very much. Anyway, if you've enjoyed this, then please do feel free to like, subscribe, and share. Also put something in the comments, let me know, are you a practitioner of Reiki? Has Reiki saved you as well? I'd love to know. And if you'd like to get in contact with Beverley, obviously you've had her email on the screen all the way through. You can also find all of her links below in the show notes, including a link to her book, which I think is most likely very well worth a read. And yeah, you can get in touch with her that way. Anyway, thank you so much once again for joining us. I hope to see you again real soon. Anyway, lots of love. Bye for now.